Where do you guys when you're talking about drafts find that kind of balance? Uh,
Well, I was just gonna say, well, it really comes down to what we're feeling at the time, right? That match, we literally said, would be really kind of enjoyable is a soul mid. And at that point in time, we were like, yeah, it gives us some early game pressure. It really does the job. I was playing Rom for that game, so it let me do what I needed to do to get to late game.
Yeah,
Definitely.
makes
Letting you
sense.
get to late game was a tricky one.
and and for us, honestly, we've just kind of been playing whatever. When we go into the ban phase, like I have a whole page set up in our Discord channel, what the other teams are playing mostly, and I don't think we've banned a single one of somebody's like characters that they play in game one. We always ban Cuckoo, Hachi, and Athena.
Just kind of keep the
Those are
meta
just
locked away.
Yeah, that's just the rank bans, But it's mostly what we're feeling like playing. Like I wanted to play Bacchus into Ganesh, and my team's like, bro, that's you're not gonna have fun. And 20 minutes later, we're walking away with a W.
So there's a bit of a
It,
skill disparity so far against the people you've been going up against in the Puddle division. And now looking at it, we're kind of looking at these big three teams in this Puddle division now. We're looking at Underworld, we're looking at Eternal Vanguard, and we're looking at the crew. Top out, it sounds like you're doing a bit of legwork here to kind of set up as the team captain here to be able to maneuver and be able to ban out these comfort picks. I'm expecting you to do so against potentially Nemesis' team here on the Eternal Vanguard. And is there anything else that really comes with that leadership position? Are you doing the shot calling when it comes to games? Like, what does it sound like on your side of the screen whenever decisions need to be made?
it's actually fairly quiet. The team that I drafted has played in the QSL before, for the most part, except for Drake and Plex.
Hmm?
But Drake is actually a really good mid to late game shot caller. So we'll kind of, let the team know which direction we want to go in, and that's kind of where we'll go. We don't. It's kind of hard to explain. Yeah, I mean, everybody just kind of knows what they should be doing at the time, and we kind of just let them know which, where we're going, what we're thinking about doing, what we want to do, and just start traveling.
Yeah. Makes sense. So it's really when that mid game, late game kind of hypes up, you've got a player you can rely upon to make those shot calls, to make those difficult decisions with you. So it kind of leverages some of that balance of weight that's on your shoulders. Nemesis, is it something kind of similar going down around your team? I know you said you're a rookie coming to amateur Smite in general, right? Into the competitive scene. You've never really played in an amateur Smite league before. Is this like according to what you expected? Is there that energy like around that mid to late game? Are people making decisions and calls on your team, or is it mostly a kind of quiet game thus far?
Well, so I'm a rookie to QSL. I
Mhm.
was a sub. I wasn't actually like playing in
Ah.
for Payload's team at the end of last season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was only there for a few scrims. But really, it's getting to know that like our shot callers are definitely Joy, our support, my buddy, my best friend, and Country. But they work on different wavelengths. They communicate with each other and the team, but really focus on like Country and Patra work really well together, and they communicate together while we're doing other aspects that we need to.
Yeah, makes sense. I think for me, it's like leadership is always one of the most interesting things to kind of hear about when it comes to competitive anything. Like if you look outward towards other video games, like let's say World of Warcraft or like raiding MMOs in general, where a lot of my knowledge and skill has come from over the years, like that's always been a big conversation. Especially whenever you have the ability to kind of line in with subs or people who are doing kind of like an off role, they can take that time to make those decisions. It kind of leads to teams oftentimes outperforming. Have you guys noticed like a level of disorganization, you would say, on other teams that's been notable? Or do you think you're just like outskilling them? What's kind of going on here, Top Hat, if you want to take it first?
Uh, the the teams that have lost, you do see that, especially late game. They'll start to kind of panic, especially once you start taking objectives. You'll notice that they try to rotate over and it's way too. You start pushing down towers after you take your first fire, and they're kind of running around, not really sure what to do. And that's why when we first started, I told my team that wards are the most broken item in the game. They let you see people coming way early, gives you the opportunity to rotate out of the way. And I feel like when we see the amount of wards people are placing, it's kind of sad sometimes. I did see Stoomps place like 47 wards one game, and that was mind-boggling. But outside of that, I think we're mostly seeing like 10, 15 wards, as opposed to my team is consistently placing 20 plus across the.
Yeah.
Definitely, I think that's like one thing people, like a bad habit people take, like maybe from like ranked, is like not necessarily warding enough, or to the point where like you don't, and not getting sentries, so we're like, well, we have 5 wards on our side of the map and we really can't get rid of them because no one's got a sentry. and now we're going, and now we're walking to Goldfury, and they just pushed us already because they've watched us all walk through a ward. I think one of the things that like I noticed, especially week 1, is like a lot of teams. For most teams, it's like trying to get together and like figure out how you guys work with each other. But like, what's the number one thing you? Technical difficulties. What's like the one thing you emphasize to your team when you first get together, of like going into your first game, like this is what we're gonna focus on this time, and not try to like get bogged down with so much? I guess, do you have like something that, okay, this game we really need to make sure we have a good draft phase, this game we need to make sure we have good comms in the mid game, things like that, especially when it's so new playing together with people you may have not played with before?
Actually, the very first thing I tell my team every game is ward the objectives and let's show up to objectives early. That's I think every single one of them will tell you. I say that at the beginning of every game.
Well, and to build off that, wards win games, right? Hands down. Mm-hmm. No matter what we do, wards wins games. And I mean, our team, the Eternal Vanguard, we ward heavy and often, and that's the nice thing. But when it comes to coming together for the first time, right? We really just kind of vibe together, and that gel and that mental state, I think, is just one thing that you really can't take away. It either comes naturally or it's a worked on thing that you may or may not hit during a season. I got really lucky with my team in the sense that we all just kind of worked together real well. I mean, as soon as I got drafted, I hit up my supports and said, let's get in games. Let's see what we can do together. And it just kind of built from there. And now, at comms, we're sitting there joking around before the start of a game, laughing about things like Vital Amplifier Neath first pick.
Laughing, you say? Well, that's probably good. So that actually, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that kind of is a great segue to a couple of questions that I'd want to ask both of you. So you've had now enough games where you've gelled enough that you feel like a cohesive unit. Would you say that that's fair for both of you?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you probably have had enough time then. How would you, if you had to do it in a word or 2 words, what would you describe the energy in in-game comms while you've got a match going on? Because for some folks it can be very chaotic. There's a lot of chatter but not a lot of substance. For some folks it's a little bit more surgical. Where would you kind of place each of your respective teams on that energy spectrum?
Calm for us. We're it's always very calm.
Well, yeah, same thing. We're very calm and direct to our objectives. I mean,
Okay.
The best part about being in dual lane is the fact that I can just kind of focus and show up for objectives.
Okay, that's fair. Now I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's kind of a segue to the second question, which is, what style of team would you characterize each of your respective squads as? And what I mean by that is, do you find yourself to be more objective focused? Do you really focus on winning the lane? Do you find yourself being more team fight focused, or a different option that's not listed there?
Well, for Eternal, we really just focus on playing our game. Like I said, we're the wallflowers. We focus on, like I like to be 20 before 20 minutes. That's my goal every time I enter a game. Whether or not it happens, you know, depends on the fluctuation of the match. But I won't let it pull from rotating to Gold Furies to Stygian Beacons to Pyros to Fires, and all of that just kind of breaks down to where we're at in the match and what comes at us. We definitely prepare for them, but it all also depends on the just where we are in the game.
We're definitely a team fight team, especially when it comes to late game. That's where I shine, probably more than anything else. I like to, or I told y'all that at the start of every game, I'm telling my team to work objectives and show up to them early. Funny thing is we don't secure objectives all that often. It can be incredibly frustrating, but that's why I like this team so much. Is when stuff like that happens, we just kind of let it slide, and we're back to the game. We're back to running it down 20 minutes in, usually with the leads that we built up.
Sure.
Yeah, makes sense.
Solid.
The other thing, I guess, sorry, I just want to piggyback off what Tophead said real quick. And that is, the mental game, you can't let yourself be down and let it focus. Week 1, I played Deadlie's team, and Deadlie will tell you, he soloed me on her twice in lane. I was losing the laning phase, but I became a level 20 Hachi, and I showed up for these objectives, and it's a different fight at that phase. He was 2 levels down on me after having up on kills. It's that mental, that never give up mentality. Like, we may be down, but we're not out of it.
Yeah, I could definitely speak to that. It was getting like, I'm not gonna lie, in my comms we were feeling great. I'm 2 solos. You get that little bit, and then it comes to the point where you're trying to 50-50 in FG, and then Hachi ults in your back line, and well, I'm not alive anymore because he just crit me for so much with old death with launch Deathbringer. I was like, well, what do we do now? I don't know. I can't get in. I can't do these things, and then they're just able to rely on that. And then in game 2, kind of was the opposite, where like I'm getting pushed back in my lane, and then he has the freedom to kind of rotate around to objectives and help his team out. When meanwhile I have to stay there and make sure I catch these waves in order to make sure I'm on par, just to be equal with Nemesis.
If I can, on the mental part. So in our MSS set, we dropped our first game, our first map. It was an hour-long game, and we absolutely should have won. We had EFG like 3 times in a row, and we just could not win on the Phoenix Sieges. It was incredibly frustrating, but we came back. We brought it back a second game. It was a easy sweep, and then game 3, 2 of our players had to leave to go to work, and they're like, bro, we got to get this done in under 20 minutes. Like, we have to get this done. I cannot be late to work. And
so it was a time crunch.
Yeah, we just W keyed the whole game, and I think it was like a 22-minute game. It was, yeah. You cannot let your mental get to you. Let that kind of stuff wait till after the sets. Let it impact you.
Absolutely. All good points.
Definitely.
I have a little bit more of a specific question if we wanted to start creeping toward the more nuanced, maybe detail-centric. And I don't want you guys to dox yourselves or any team strategies or anything like that, but for a lot of teams in the division that you're in, the struggles can look like pretty broad, and what I mean by that is like at this level, there can often be some mechanical deficiencies, players not quite knowing their gods yet, not quite knowing basic things about the map. But there can also be more specific things that people try to address, like the in-game comms, the shot calling, the positioning, ward placement, things of that nature. Now again, without giving anything away about yourselves, so you don't feel obligated to answer this question, but you both are undefeated so far. You've got to be doing something right. And clearly are doing something right. What are you looking to improve on as this season progresses? Because we're still quite early, relative to where we're at. So I would be interested to hear, what is the next step? Because you've already gotten pretty high. What are you trying to do to make yourself even better?
I'll let Top Hat answer that one first.
And again, don't feel pressured to answer that. I just think, you guys have made great strides already, and that's always good to see. But there's always another step to climb to.
There's nobody in my life more critical of myself than I am, and I'm very blessed to have the team that I do. I struggle with early game comms. I don't like. I'm just going to be transparent. As a support, I do not know what to do early game between like the 5 and 10 minute mark. I'm just walking to the lanes, like trying to see if there's something I can do to get one of my laners ahead, and a lot of times it doesn't work out, and so I'm just kind of like sitting there quietly, like thinking to myself, like what are we supposed to be doing? It's like, what do y'all want to do? And so that's something that I definitely could have tried to.
Fair answer. Thanks.
But mostly the leadership and probably our objective secure.
I was going to ask about that if objective secure would make the list for improvements based on earlier comments. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Eternal Vanguard's really interesting. After our first game against Deadlight, we had a scrim the next week, and it was against players who were much better than us. In the sense that we scrimmed up in a different division.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that came out of it was our team captain Lana, who is an absolute goat and got some serious steals in the draft with Joy and myself. I feel she holds us to an accountability standard, right? We all went through after that game, and we went to everybody in the team and said, this is what you're doing well, this is what you need to do better. And everybody's answers were different, right? Because we all saw things that other people didn't. And to, again, piggyback off what Top Hat said, I'm my biggest critic. I didn't feel like I was going to get drafted. I was worried. I was like, for me, I'm like, I don't know if I can really show up here. And it's just proof that if you doubt yourself and you make it an effort to not let it bring you down, but then instead focus on ways to get better, that you can really just excel.
I think that's a big thing generally being pushed by the QSL this league, or this season rather. Of course, with the Puddle Division and now the Oasis, like, I love the amount of accountability and growth that we're kind of promoting here. I don't know if you guys have any kind of opinions on this overall season thus far. I know Top Hat, you said that you've been away for a year. How do you feel so far with the many changes that kind of sweep forth in this season? How different is it from the last you played in?
I actually really like that we brought out the Oasis division, kind of make sure that everybody gets an opportunity. But probably one of the bigger surprises was having people that are new to the league start in shallows, puddles. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That to me, like when I first heard about that, I was like, well, there's going to be people that are mechanically way better than other people in this division. But the more I thought about it, this is competitive. This isn't ranked. Just because one person is popping off does not mean anyway that they'll carry the whole team to a victory. It can happen, but I feel like once you learn that in QSL at least, or in competitive, teamwork is always going to be the way to go. It just doesn't work having that one guy trying to make hero plays all the time. You gotta come together and play. That's probably the biggest thing.
From a potential ego perspective, just hopping off of that again, you guys, do you feel like anyone in the Puddle Division has kind of hopped out, shown themselves off as being the biggest threat on a team, perhaps leading that team to victory, or perhaps not being able to carry all that weight? Has anyone stood out for you guys yet?
Drake is a monster, man. He was the quiet goat.
On which team, sorry?
On my team.
Oh, hell yeah.
I hadn't heard of him. I didn't know who he was, and one of the mods in Underworld was like, "Hey, you should take a look at this guy." And I got him pretty late in the draft, and I'm genuinely surprised because he's he's a monster. Doesn't matter what he plays. It doesn't matter what role he's playing. He just does his job to a T. It's been awesome. I love that.
The demonic lurker that appeared for the underworld. Nemesis, can you say anything for the same for your team, or do you feel like it's one where there hasn't really been surprises, but perhaps just the teamwork is something that's gelling together so well for you so far that's allowed you to kind of come to this point?
Well, I think it piggybacks off the teamwork thing.
Yeah.
I will say Country and Patro together is terrifying. They really do help facilitate parts of our game plan. Just like Joy helps facilitate me and Lana. Like, there's just a lot to be said about how we all show up when we need to and do the jobs we need to. If you go back to screenshots of my sets, I've openly said most of the time I don't really care about boxing a whole lot. I'm a farm first, typically priority person. And it shows in my structure damage, right? At the end of the game, you'll see me typically head and shoulders above the rest of the lobby. I'm there for that purpose. So having that facilitation and that ability to just kind of play through your strengths as a team is just huge.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Deadline, I know you have a tight schedule. If there's any questions that you're very pertinent and wanting to ask, now is the kind of time to kind of bring them up, because I know we're getting closer and closer to that deadline for you.
No, like I said, I'm super excited. Hopefully to get a rematch with Nemesis in the playoffs. Definitely want that rematch, and then I'm looking forward as well to play Top Hat in the next couple weeks. It's interesting too, especially with probably coming up at the time we play Top Hat. I think Newt will be available in pick and bans. So what do you guys think? Does that change anything, or do you think we're still seeing the Hachis, the Ramas, those kind of characters going forward into the characters? Is there any hunters or gods you want to see back into the meta?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Top Adam. I want to take.
Go for it, Nemesis.
So when Newt came out, I diamonded her in a day. I took her to 1 to 10 in a day.
Jesus Christ!
I literally had a match. I was in there with one of the other Puddles divisions. It was S Penguin and Awesome Death 408. I literally took Newt jungle. I think she's good. I think she lacks some stuff. She doesn't have a great escape, and she does get caught out of position, and you're just like, I'm gonna die, or I fight my way out of this. If you're a boxer, she is definitely a god for you. Where she falls in the meta, I don't think she's gonna really outshine some of the other hunters. They just are too good at what they do. They're safe picks. They can get out of a fight. They can get into a fight. They can do a ton of damage. I would like to see Houyi come back to the meta. I am a Houyi main, and I love my Houyi.
I know quite a few casters who would castrate you for that one.
They can't. Okay. My team does it all the time. We're fine.
Good. I'm glad you get a little bit of that feedback.
They haven't. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Top Hat.
I was just gonna say I haven't had a lot of exposure to Newt. I do know that the few times that I have played with somebody playing, it absolutely opens up the out of pocket picks from different roles to be able to play in. So I noticed Naja did really well when paired up with.
She almost feels like a mage, right?
Setup. Yeah, absolutely.
She feels like a mage, but she also can play auto attack very well. So
Yeah.
it just completely depends. I had the most fun going ability based, but 40% crit with her. I would literally blank use my one, blink use my one, blink use my one, and it's just like, oh, I do a ton of damage, and I just fought 4 people at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I noticed, especially when I played Naja with her. You just have the slows, the sash, and you can just constantly do that just over and over, repeatedly. And it was not fun for the other team.
Diminishing returns? What are those?
Yeah, right. Exactly. But as far as gods that I want to see come back again, that's a really good question. I know nobody really is a Donza enjoyer. I love watching that little guy hop into his rocket.
I will admit, I am a Danza enjoyer. I am 100%. There is nothing better than getting a good rocket and then destroying half the team. There's 2, 1, 3 for the kite speed, and then we just dominate everything.
I like the frog skin and watching him bounce around or the noise he makes when he's jumping. It's
Donza was the other hunter I got to diamond on day 1.
Oh hell yeah!
Dang, that's great.
So I'm okay with the Donza coming back too.
Cthulhu, though, as far as support gods or solo gods, Cthulhu, I'd like to see Cthulhu.
We've been seeing a ton of Guardians head towards that solo lane. Do you feel like Cthulhu won't be able to kind of reach those same heights as, say, like a Cerberus or a Kuzumbo has been really seeing there? Or do you feel like there's a chance for him to kind of crop his head way back in? Not to give any potential spoilers for the upcoming match this Friday.
No, it's all right. I actually was a Cthulhu main for a very long time in solo, before solo got really. There's too much that counters it. There's too much like flat health damage. There's Achilles. There's outplaying. There's the executes that just kind of get him out of the way. I don't know. I started playing when Cthulhu came out. I always thought it was really cool to just have this gigantic Lovecraftian monster showing up on the map, throwing stuff at people, knocking them up. He's a fun god to play.
I mean, I think it's a god that got a lot of people's attention onto Smite whenever, there wasn't a lot of eyes on it. He's just so out of the pocket, so out of the box. I would love to see Cthulhu come back. I would just hate to play against him. So I'm kind of glad to see him tucked far, far below in a box that no one shall reach.
That was the worst part of like when I came back this fight. It was like season 7 around when Cthulhu was kind of meta. It was team fighting, and then all of a sudden a giant freaking Lovecraftian beast is in the middle of your lane, and I'm like, I can't hit anyone else because this Cthulhu's just running me down and knocking me up.
You don't
Like,
want to see the Morgan come back with that? The Morgan Cthulhu combo?
Please don't.
That's
I
what
don't
was
need
gonna
to.
Y'all ever roll that in Assault? So lit.
Actually, that would be scary, and I thank you for haunting my nightmares, Reed. I will be sending you the bill for the therapy that I'm required now.
I will say, though, just to kind of weigh in from a solo lane perspective, Cthulhu's always occupied kind of a weird place, just because he's so feast or famine, and because he more than a lot of other magical solo laners depends on other characters getting nerfed in order for him to be good, rather than him getting buffed.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I will say, also, just as somebody who has had to play into Cthulhu God knows how many times, I hate those matchups because I love to box, and you know who doesn't love to box? It's Cthulhu. So it feels an awful lot like Cthulhu, probably more than most, just because his early clear isn't the best, has to kind of sit back and wait. And with somebody like your Cerberus or even Jing Chen, like these Guardians which have better than average damage, you can afford to actually get forward and not really box, but at least get in the wave in a way that you really can't with Cthulhu. So I never look forward to seeing one, and I don't really. I mean, it's fine when he's in the meta, but as has already been mentioned, he has a lot of counters. Kin size is a natural counter. You can do any number of things to shred him. So happy to see him back. Hope it's not for long. And
especially with all like the auto attack warriors that are kind of still in the meta.
Oh no, those can stay. I don't want those to go anywhere.
I will personally say, get them out of here, please. I'm tired of getting run down by a Bologna. All
This
the
is
kins.
duo lane propaganda again.
Yes, it is. Bologna is like the quintessential god of Smite since season 2. She's really defined this game and is such a poster girl. You're fine with the Bologna? Are you gonna what about Osiris?
No, Bologna can go. Osiris can stay.
Osiris is a king.
Yeah, Osiris. Listen, Bologna just. The first week, I'm just getting run down with Bologna, with Kins, and Mid Guardian, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
shit. And then I'm just like, all right, Tower Impale with Honor, and he's like, psych, I'm beadsing it. You're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even like a Magi's, or even they're like running down with the Magi's, and I'm just like,
Yeah, it gives you so many options. Just for picking Bologna in general, like it's almost never going to be a bad thing to slot into pretty much any comp, and she's always going to go in the top half of the draft. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we our first game against them we didn't ban Bologna after game 1 after getting that was like we were like, okay, so Bologna, get it away, because We're getting our backline through because of the Bologna Hachi combo, and then we left Bologna on the board. And then we're like, and then as we get into it, I'm like, we're like, oh, yeah, that.
There's actually a moment in that stream where you see Patro and Country really come together. At one point in time, Bologna goes and ults on, I think it was you, Deadly, and then Thor lands right on you, just like almost directly.
Oh yeah, when I got CC chained in our jungle while trying to contest FG.
Yeah, that would be it.
Or was it game 1 with the Yamoja? Because you guys ran a Yamoja support, right?
Yep, that's a Joy special. He loves that.
Yeah, he ran the It was Bologna ult, Thor dunk, Yamoja wave, and I'm just like, well, all right. And I start running toward our red, and then all of a sudden Yamoja wave comes up, and I'm like, well, shit, because it's angled to the side where it's like by that one rock that's like in front of speed buff that like kind of makes that corridor there. And so then I had just used my 3 to beat. I had bees in 3 away from the Thor dunk. So now I'm just caught in there. So like that was not fun one bit. I'm like, back up. Oh, well, I'll see you guys later.
I love anyone with the confidence to run a Yamoja in puddle. Because typically,
honestly, yeah.
Typically, whenever I see like a puddle match, I'm expecting like low execution gods for the most part. Because like you kind of want to line it up where you have big circles, you're running kind of simple things. That way, like you don't have to expect a high amount of execution from each member on your team and line up these like kind of perfect optimal plays that you can see at a pro play or maybe the Abyss division. But like that week 1, seeing Eternal Vanguard bring out the Yamoja, I was such a doubter. And Nemesis, like your support, what's his name again?
Joy Wolf.
Joy Wolf killed it. Played so well, made me a believer. And now anytime I see a Yamoja come on out, I'm like, you know what? I've got faith. You know, I may not believe in it in my casuals or my ranked games, but like the Puddle Division Joy Wolf proved the competency that he had on that god. And I'm very excited to see what you guys kind of have boiling, ready to go against each other as the competition rises here into week number 4. With both of you guys heading face to face, you don't have to answer this if you're not super comfortable with it, but is there, I know Henry kind of touched on earlier how there's like some off meta picks that may be more comfort, but is there anything that you're looking forward to playing or looking forward to seeing or just want to see that hasn't been like immediately played so far, but you think it could do very, very well right now?
You can answer first on that one, Top Hat.
All right. I'm actually pleasantly surprised to hear that somebody else plays Yamoja. That's awesome. That's also one of my podcasts. Yamoja and Terra. I thoroughly enjoy playing both of those gods. Like you were saying, that those are gods that you probably won't see played much in puddles. But Terra is absolutely one of the gods that I was known for. Her and Athena in the solo lane. I did bust out the Kuzenbro occasion.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably something I will end up playing in our set against me.
Ooh. So expect the Terra.
And see, that's the, you know, I have very similar situations. Obviously, I said I love Houyi, and my god pool is very tough to ban out, in the sense that I have pretty much can play anything over there. But like, you know, I enjoy the Chiron. I enjoy the you know, some of the other off-pick hunters too that have fun, like Artemis, Neith, and I, you know, to be honest, we may fool around with some of those. It's kind of nice.
You know, I'm sad that you won't get to play against Dees, our mid laner. Him and our solo laner unfortunately won't be here for our set. Because dude, when this guy plays Agni, it's game over every time. It's I don't know. It's a masterpiece or a masterclass watching him play Agni. I don't know how he's in this level.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Country. There's like so many picks that I'm like, huh. And then he'll pull it out and be like, I just kind of want to play this. And I'm like, sure. We're like, sure, go for it. If that's what you're feeling, play it. And he just casually dropped 20 kills. And you're like, wait, what?
That's the man right there.
Bro, I think Dees went like, I don't want to overestimate what he did. I'm going to go on the low side and say that he went like 12-0 on Disco one time. He's just like, I wanna play disc. All right, bro, go for it.
Boys, I
Just drops a
know
bomb.
Deadline needs to hop on out of here. He's got some meetings to attend. So we're gonna go ahead and swap on over to the tier list. Deadline, thank you for joining us. We're gonna go here for probably
Thank you,
about
guys.
30 minutes here. You have a good rest of your night, brother.
Thank you guys.
Deadline.
Good luck, guys, this week.
Very deadly.
Peace, my man. All right, boys. I sent out the tier list maker. I know one of you, not naming any names, hasn't quite really filled it out or hadn't sent me one back. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is that we're just gonna pull it up and we're gonna walk through it together. I want to rephrase it. I want to talk to you guys about what you think this week is going to look like. Who's gonna rise to the top? Do you think there's going to be any major changes? Is there anything you're expecting? And how do you guys compare against each other one-on-one in your estimations, even with the subs coming in this week, Top Hat? I've got the tier list maker pulled up. You know, let me go ahead and share this on Discord as well, just to make this simpler on y'all's end. You should be able to see it on my end in Discord. Oh wow, that's looking kind of crummy on the stream, but you know what, we're living with it. So this is what you sent me to me previously, Top Hat. How do you stand about by this on week number 4, knowing you've got subs coming in?
I still think we're gonna win 2-1. I don't doubt that we will lose the first game. I think that's just kind of what's gonna happen. No offense, no. But like I was saying, my team is right now the sentiment is adapt or die.
Mm-hmm.
We lost the first game against MSS, just a few little mistakes, but we absolutely turned it around. We figured it out game 2 and 3, and I think that's what's going to happen with the rest of these teams. I think we'll probably make a few mistakes, you know, knowing that we're playing against a little bit of better teams. But I just can't see us losing. I think our team fight is too top tier.
Too top tier. So you're very confident going in on this. I'm gonna pull up the teams coming up, the games coming up for this week number 4. So we've got Crew going up against Fallen Angels. I believe you've already played against Fallen Angels, right, Top Hat?
Not sure actually. I don't remember.
I
know we played against Cap.
Bendizzle, Transformer.
You have
Bendizzle.
not.
Oh, yes,
It was only
we
a
played
bit.
against Bendizzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played against Bendizzle. Is that somebody said that was his team? Is that like Karate Boyfriend and?
You got.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
is.
Yep. We played against them.
Okay,
I
very
think,
good.
Game 1 was like 31-9. Game 2 was a little bit closer, like 19 to something.
So you crushed it game number 1, and you felt very good about that. You're putting most of these teams into the B tier here. You're expecting Crew to kind of go undefeated until they reach up to you as well, by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
I feel the same way about the Crew. I know some of the people that help run the show behind the Crew. I'm good friends with.
Mm-hmm.
So all offense to them. I think the same thing. I think we'll probably drop a map, but again, we'll just figure it out. My team is just way too good at coming together and figuring stuff out when it comes to it.
Yeah. All right. We'll see if you can put those words to truth here on Friday. Over here on the Eternal Vanguard side, Ro, we didn't get a chance for you to send me a tier list of what you thought. Is there anything here that you want to change? Is there anything here that you don't agree with? You've played against many of these teams here as well. We are on week number 4. You've played through about half of these teams. How are you feeling, my man?
Well, so I'm going to counteract that, saying that we're going to 2-1 Eternal.
So we're both predicting 2-1s on both sides, not a 2-0?
Hey.
I mean, I prefer a 2-0, don't get me wrong. You know. But I have faith in Top Hat's team. They're going to put up a hell of a fight. I definitely have some changes to the tier list. I put the Crew as an A team. I think they're good. I just don't think they quite have the synergy that we do on the top tier.
Mm-hmm.
I put Food as a B team. Like, they can go either way right now.
Yeah.
I feel like they're good in B. And I put the Fallen Angels in C because they can really climb back. For the other three teams, I put them in D because I want to see them gel as a team. I want to see something about these guys that brings them together. Because when we've played the teams we have, like Kappa, they seem to lack that synergy. And I absolutely have a lot of respect for a lot of the Kappa's players. I'm friends with some of them. They're mid laners in the league because of me, so I want to see them succeed. I just need to think they need to find their grit and they need to find it soon.
So what I'm hearing is that we should clip this and send it to Deadline. Tell him that you think his team is unsynergistic and that you don't even see them climbing back in this season.
I mean,
We need to farm those clicks.
with much love and respect to Deadly or Deadline, I just the second game we had against them was like 21 minutes, and we had that click going, and it was just brutal. Like, as a ROM, I didn't really have to do anything. I just kind of sat there and farmed.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have not lost a single game in this entire season thus far. And I remember I casted that game the first Monday of this season. You guys, it took a little bit of a while to kind of get the ball rolling game number 1, but it didn't ever look like you were losing. Then game number 2, you came back and you just crushed it. The amount of confidence on your team is very, very notable. And yeah, I mean, what more can I say? I'm very excited to kind of be able to see what's coming up this Friday and get to meet the both of y'all.
Dual lane's gonna be electric. We're gonna have some fun over there.
I'm looking forward to non-stop fighting. I want an arena match for 40 minutes.
Sounds puddle.
That's probably what's gonna happen.
Minimum.
I can absolutely see that happening. I am a very aggressive support player.
I mean, that's the best way to be a support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not diving 5 on the enemy team when they're pulling the fire giant and the rest of your team's down, like, you're not really, like, saving the day. You know, what's the reason of you even playing that Kepri, that Kuzumba, whatever you end up lining up with?
You gotta lead from the front. Gotta put your
exactly.
line like a linebacker, so mix it up a little.
Here's an unpopular opinion. Week 2, I played Apollo in game 2.
You put Apollo?
Unpopular, you say?
I did. I played my Apollo. I love my Apollo.
Okay. Now, I did not see that game. How did that end up going?
We won in, like, I think it was another 23-minute. Like, our first games are definitely more feel-out matches. But after that, we definitely come through and say, you know, well, this is where we can excel, and we try to really make it a point to just climb that and run with it.
Honestly, I feel like that's a really viable strategy, though, for at most levels of play. Like, you have enough time between games to make your little adjustments, to make if there are target bans that need to be done, get those in there. So I don't hate that. Whenever I hear Apollo getting played, though, in the back of my mind, what I'm thinking is split push simulator, and it actually is not always the case for Apollo. So, because you can slot him into so many different things.
I mean, that's why you play him in ranked, just so you can hop into that and just split push.
Oh, sure, but yeah, like we never say that out loud, but yes, that's exactly what we're thinking when Apollo gets locked in.
Well, here's my thing with split push gods like that, right? My first Puddles match, or prospect match, I played a Chernobog. And at 4 minutes, I was level 5, and I was in solo lane killing Hercules.
Well, I hate that for that solo laner, but I love that for you as a player, so, yeah.
I'll split push with the best of them, but at the same point in time, if I can make a difference on the map somewhere, I want to make that difference.
Yeah, I find Gons like Chernobog very capable of that. I think with like what Energy's saying there, I think typically Apollo has a harder time kind of transitioning to somewhere like solo lane that quickly due to the difference in their ultimates, right? Like Apollo is so well known for that split push, partly due to his ultimate and his escape and the mez and of course his passive just giving him so much like quick structure damage whenever it's stacked up. It's like, that god has one role and high-res knows it.
Yeah, and props to people that, like, try to play him jungle as well. Like, that's a fun, not a great application of him. Like, he can do okay, but, yeah, it's one of the... we kind of have touched on it at various points, and we've already gone through the tier list, so I think we're okay to raise this point. we've talked a little bit about god pools and kind of what the size of those is and what is and isn't a viable number of characters to kind of have under your belt as you get into the competitive scene and then as you progress higher and higher. I think a good general rule is that you want to at least have a god pool that can withstand all the target bans that could come your way. So have a pool like 5 or 6 characters as a minimum. Personally, I still think that that's too low. What would you guys say, since you've now gone through this drafting process and maybe looked at some of these scouting games, looked at player profiles? Does that factor at all into the decision making process, or not so much?
I'll let Tap Banish first because he's a captain and I'm not.
Well, okay, then I would adapt. Right. I could adapt the question slightly for you then.
So being a player, like I said, I mean, the only way you're banning me out on carry is if you ban me down to Scotty.
Oh.
Okay,
I hate Scotty. I'm gonna go on record. I'm sorry whoever that offends, but I do.
Okay, well that offends me for one, but we're not gonna deal with my offense. So you're saying then that you would have less of a god pool and maybe more of a god lake, like
exactly.
A little bit. Okay.
Exactly. Like I have diamonds on pretty much all the hunters. I think there's only 4 I'm not, but Scotty's 1, and the rest of them are like 9 or 8. And then the ones that are diamond, I have diamond, and so it's like you can go ahead and send 10 bans my way, and I'll find a way to still play around it with something.
Okay. I mean, I guess it's good for you that it's Scotty that's the making pick, because I can't think of too many scenarios where you're reaching that bottom half of the draft and you're like, what would be really good here? Scotty. Like it just doesn't happen terribly often. So okay. But going the other way, yeah, where do you stand on the god pool question?
So I'm in a pretty lucky role, I think. Even though Guardians are just the way to go right now, even in my prior experience in this game has been from solo. And kind of like Nem, I do have a lot of diamond gods, although just because they're diamond doesn't mean adequate character. I have 96 diamond gods. I started playing this game in COVID happened. So I mean, you can try to ban me out, but you got better options, man. Just ban something else. The last season that I played in, one of the last games I played in, they tried to do that. They tried to just ban all solo lane gods. I pulled out a Kabrak and then went 23, and it's just you're not gonna ban me out ever. I have a god seed.
Sure. Yeah. Now that's all well and good for you guys. What about the rest of your team? Because not everybody shares the same dedication that you or I have towards maxing out diamond ranks and developing the unbannable god pool.
I'll actually jump to take this one first, Nem. That was probably the first thing I asked my team to do was I put a tier list maker in there and I asked my team to throw together what gods they're good at, and I think the slimmest pickings we got is Sweaty. Sweaty will attest to that. But again, it still doesn't really matter even if you ban Sweaty out. The team synergy, the team, we're just too good, man. It's not gonna happen. I don't think there's gods that you can just be like, yep, I'm gonna ban this, and that's gonna screw their whole team up. I just don't see that happening.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think the only reason I would ask that is just because at this level, it's so difficult to predict kind of what level players are entering competition at, because like you have some players that are completely brand new to it. You've got others, like to use Patro as an example. I played against Patro in a couple of leagues like several years ago. You've got people that have been doing competitive, and Lana's the same, and Joywolf is the same. People who've been doing this for quite a long time, so that breadth of experience is going to be pretty inconsistent across a lot of these puddles, shallows level teams. So it's always, I just find it interesting to kind of get that perspective, because obviously like the further up you go, players are going to have a different perspective on that as well. Bans are going to be a little bit different. God pools are going to be a little bit different. So I'm just
I
always
think
curious.
I think in puddles, if you can do anywhere from 5 to 10 gods in your respective role, you should be fine. That's
Yeah.
what I would recommend, that at a minimum have 5 to 10 gods that you can always rely on, just in case, for some weird reason your comfort pick does get. Um, and you do see that happen a lot in here. Like I
Mhm.
know one of the teams we played against, all they played was Bologna, and I, we didn't feel like it was too big of an issue, so we just let them keep playing it.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what you're going to keep going to, we're going to figure out how to play against it. Good
Sure.
luck, buddy.
Well, and then I'm gonna piggyback off that. I 100% agree. Like 5 to 10 is probably a good minimum, right? If I can ban a player out by banning a player out, I am gonna go with player removal almost every single time, and that's always gonna be my voice.
Hmm. Okay.
If you can make a person completely irrelevant in a game, do that every
Mhm.
time. It's a 4-on-5. Numbers wins.
Sure. Um, Now that is a great segue to another question that I desperately wanted to ask earlier, but now I have an excuse to.
Ooh.
As a strategy question, and again, you don't have to feel obligated to answer this, but I also don't think it's really giving anything away. As you're kind of looking at picks and bans, obviously there are meta bans that are either overtuned or just very potent. There are maybe those comfort picks that you want to get out of somebody who's particularly proficient. Um, Now, when you're doing that, do you find it easier to focus on a team's weakest player, or maybe go after picks that for their strongest player, or maybe some mixture in between?
That's a good question.
It is. I'm very proud of
What is
myself.
that? Well, it is.
This is
I take pride in researching my questions, so I gotta keep it.
this is
Yeah, that's all I got. But yeah, I would open the floor though. I would
Go,
love
go,
to
go.
hear
Sorry.
that. Oh, you're
I
good.
think this is where I'm gonna kind of disagree with Nemesis a little bit.
Okay.
Like I told y'all, I think before we started, we consistently ban Cuckoo, Hachi, or something else
Mhm.
every game.
Sure.
Um, Usually our last two bans are reserved for gods that kind of screw up our comps.
Mhm.
Like they can. But 90% of the time, it's asking Sweaty what he doesn't want to play against. Asking, Dees, what do you not want to play against?
Sure.
That's really about our draft strategy goes.
In fairness, I can respect the Hachi ban. I literally had a scrim last night, and I literally went into the set going, I don't want to play Hachi.
Yeah.
And then game 2, we got Hachi, and the game was over in 19 minutes.
That's the Hachi experience right there.
I was like, I don't want to play Hachi, and then, to be honest, like the second game, we were just kind of at our confidence point that I was talking about earlier, and it was just bad.
Yeah. Okay. Incidentally, there's no wrong answer to that question. I just find it really interesting to get different perspectives on it.
And
So.
the best part about that perspective, though, is it differs in roles. Like, I'm a carry. When the game starts, my music goes on, and I just kind of live in my lane. Right?
Wait, so question in general to
Well,
both of you. Sorry to kind of rip that one out. Do you guys play music while you're in your games?
Absolutely.
Yeah? You find it like critical to your experience?
Yeah, I literally go, what do I want to farm to? And I love music. I'm a musician. I love to sing. And so I have everything from like 80s rock to like an Eminem playlist to show tunes to classical piano.
Yeah. I always find it
I
so
can-
interesting that like some players are able to play with the music in the background. Top Hat, please go ahead right after this. But like to me, Smite just so heavily relies on sound. It's crazy to hear an ADC is comfy, like deterred from the presence of a jungle or an enemy team support or mid laner coming in, or now with the teleporter soul laner. It's just like, yeah, dude, I'll jam out. Easy peasy.
I'm the other way around. I get very easily distracted, or I'll just straight up stop talking because I'm so focused on my music and my gameplay. And you can't really do that as a support. I mean, I probably could get away with it with some of my team able to like say they're very comfortable saying what they do. But in the end, I'm the end all be all of what we're doing, and to do that kind of stuff, I have to be paid. I can't.
Yeah, makes sense. And in general, is there anything specific that you guys do to prep up for your games? Do you have a way of boosting your confidence? Do you do a bunch of scrims beforehand, or do you try to keep it to where, you don't exhaust yourself mentally? You can just hop in and be fresh. What's y'all's game plan as you enter into your games?
Well, we scrimmed. We typically have kept our same schedule. We scrim earlier in the week. We kind of play games here and there. I mean, that's rough because like I can't do Wednesdays typically. I judge Magic the Gathering events on Wednesdays.
Oh, sick.